Today, we are here for the second episode of our Conversion Chronicles. This is our series of episodes, which is focused more upon how uh, we solve different problem areas of brands when it comes to conversion. How we can sort of help them increase their experience on the platform. How can we make the primary KPIs move the needle? How can we sort of engage our customers in a way that we sort of drive the growth of the business on all the four boosters, right? So this episode is called Maximizing Ad Spends Through Optimizing Digital Experience, because today we're going to talk about how much we are sort of spending to sort of maximize, but to get a lot of users to our platform, right? Constantly, brands are spending millions and millions of dollars to bring traffic to the website or the app, right? But things fail, right? The data, the stats itself shows that 90% of the people are bouncing away, and that means the 90% of the spends are being are going away, right? How would we maximize our ad spends, right? How would we drive revenue on the four boosters? This particular webinar is going to be about that. Wanted to give you one heads up that please, we would like to keep this particular webinar very interactive. Anytime, any place, any slide you think you have a question or any thought or any feedback, we would urge you to put those in the chat, so that we can have this interactive session rather than a monologue, right? Going ahead, I'm going to talk about myself. I'm leading the CRO and experimentation program at Tatvic. We are more than 15 plus CRO experts working at Tatvic. I have more than 4 years of experience in design, data, and experimentation, where we have done more than 800 plus experiments for leading brands like Royal Enfield, Angel One, TVS Motors, Plix Life, and all the likes, where we have devised a complete strategic roadmap for these brands to inculcate culture of experimentation and boost user engagement, boost interactivity, and boost the primary KPIs on the particular platforms, right? With me is Tejas, who is product marketing manager from VWO. He is having a 6 years of experience in product marketing, content writing, and growth consulting for B2B SaaS companies. He has launched and expanded multiple products and multiple features, right? He has addressed customer challenges by introducing innovative and accessible solutions, and he has been working extensively for all the brands to help them sort of devise the GTM, which is go to market strategy, how to improve the lead, and how to improve the overall conversion rate of the platform, right?
Right. Hey guys, good to see all of you here and really excited about this session. Thanks for that, Anuj.
All right, thanks Tejas, thanks for joining. All right. Starting with the data point that we wanted to sort of talk about, that the current data shows that almost 600 plus $billion were spent in 2023 in bringing users to the platform, right? It's almost 9.5% rise from 2022, right? And coming in the 2024, now that we are here, it is expected to reach to $667 billion, right? Now, the what we have seen, this particular spending habit is on the rise, right? In this particular year, this will reach a 10.9% annual increase, and slowly till 2027, what we believe it will become a $870 billion industry, where people are spending more than $800 billion to gain traffic, to gain attention, to gain awareness, right? Now, but there is a problem over here. This is constant, steady rise. This is not going to end any time in future where we are spending on ads, right? But the main problem that that sort of users face is sort of having a device strategy, which sort of helps us in maximizing all of this money which is spent, right? Going ahead, just wanted to do a poll. So on the call, everyone, what are the current channels that you're spending on to get traffic? This is something that we wanted to understand from you. So anyone of the in the call, if you can sort of give us that particular answer, that will be really helpful. Okay, that's beautiful. I think Facebook is winning for sure. Google search is coming on second, LinkedIn is coming on third, and fourth is DV360, right? Definitely, Facebook is the area where mostly when you have to reach to Gen Z or reach to a younger audience, make a brand, make a recall, right? It's very important to spend on Facebook. So definitely, I think we are doing we are going right, and definitely you all of you must be facing some of the other issues in this particular spending habit that we have, right, on to bring on more customers. So, but astonishingly, the problem is 60% of digital marketing spend is wasted due to multiple reasons. Multiple reasons like maybe creative not being right. Maybe a landing page not being converting enough. Maybe we are not able to grasp attention of our users once they have clicked on the ad, right? Multiple areas of the work of this whole journey is sort of could be messed up in sort of having this particular data point of having 60% of digital marketing spend, right, which is being wasted. Um, I wanted to just talk about one case study. It's of a travel agency called Wanderlust Getaways, right? So now Wanderlust Getaways is a travel agency. They had this campaign running on a Facebook, which is offering a free downloadable travel guide. It's a travel company, so the creative also sort of mentions the travel part of it. Uh, but the problem is, as soon as the user was clicking on the ad, they were going to a website which had a direct form, right? Nothing was there, no image, no initiation of, no orientation of the users, no sort of talking about why this particular user has landed here, the value proposition of the companies, nothing, right? So the what was the result of this? 98% of the traffic bounced away, immediately bounced away after clicking on the ad, right? And after coming to the page, right? So what does this show? This shows whatever however we are doing our marketing efforts right to get the users on the platform, they are going away. 98% of them per se, right? That means we were talking about 98% of the money being wasted over here, right? Because all of those users who have clicked on the ad have, out of them, 98% of them have bounced away, right? So the impact was the while the ad garnered very high click rate, the frustrating form discouraged many from completing it, and the lack of website clarity about Wanderlust Getaway further diminished the user interest, right? On the left side is the form, right? Immediately you click on the ad, you reach here, right? Being a travel agency, being a company who's into holidays, into travel, it's sort of visual communication can be done in multiple ways when we talk about travel companies, right? Here they did nothing, it was just a form. That's why 98% of the people were bouncing away, right? So what we have seen, there are three ways to boost overall growth and revenue in a digital market, right? Number one is increasing traffic that we all are, right? We are spending on Facebook, LinkedIn, DV360, Google Ads to get the traffic. The other two are increasing conversion rate and increasing average order value. But the problem in current situation and current ecosystem of things, how they work, is brands just generally focus upon increasing traffic, right? Constantly increasing traffic, spending more money month on month to get on traffic, to keep on getting good creative, good traffic. But the problem is they just forget about these two other things, which is increasing conversion rate and increasing average order value, right? So here, where the whole idea and area of digital experience optimization kicks in, right? Um, One, we all have to increase traffic, right? In order to have growth and revenue boosted on four boosters, it is important to tackle three of them. But the problem is people generally just tackle the first part, which is increased traffic, right? Where digital experience optimization comes in is helping out brands in other 2 points, which is conversion rate and average order value, right? So the overall growth in revenue requires optimization of all the three things: increasing traffic, increasing conversion, and increasing average order value. Companies, what we have seen, spend generally $92 driving traffic for every $1 spent on conversion, right? So this just gives us the habit and the nature of how marketeers as of now are thinking, right? The marketeers as of now are just thinking about driving traffic, and not about optimizing the area or the place where these traffic will gonna come, right? So imagine a hoarding, right? Imagine a hoarding of a sunglass company, right? It's a beautiful picture, it's a beautiful hoarding. You are all compelled to buy this beautiful glasses that this particular company wants to sort of give out to you, right? But as soon as you walk down to the store, you realize that the lights are not working. You realize that that the products are not kept clean. That we realize that the person who is there, who is attending the customers, is not talking well, right? So now what will you do? You will definitely walk out of the store, and you'll be like, this is something that I'm not going to do. I'm not going to purchase today, right? So now this is a big problem, right? This exactly happens when you put it on a digital ecosystem, right? It's very important to have a hoarding right, but it is really very important to have our store right as well, right? So average websites, what we have seen, waste 75% of its traffic due to lack of persuasion and lack of salesability present on this on the website, right? Doubling our traffic or websites conversion has the same impact as doubling our traffic, right? Many people just forget that. Many people just forget that, like, spending $1,000 every month is bringing me, let's say, 100 users. To bring 200 users and bring 200 purchases, people generally start spending $2,000 on that, right? But they forget that increasing the conversion rate would have the same impact of increasing the traffic, right? This is where brands go wrong, and this is where complete forte of digital experience optimization kicks in, right? So now we'll introduce a digital experience of program, how digital experience optimization works, right? So let's say 100,000 visitors are coming on our website or the landing page, right? Out of them, 10,000 visitors wanted to transact or put a lead, right? Out of them, 2,000 visitors actually transact or fill up a lead on our platform, right? And we are all happy there are 2,000 conversions that happen on the website, right? But what about these 8,000 visitors who intended but did not transact, right? These were equally intended, but they did not, right? Something must have gone wrong. What would be that? Could be unclear value propositions that we are our product is trying to solve for them. It could be lack of trust, lack of principles of persuasions present on the screen, or on the landing page, or it could be unpleasant user experience, right? So what we have seen, 90% of the people look at design when it comes to the trustworthiness of the website, right? Let's say if our design or any kind of a UX flow of our website is wrong, there is immediate distrust in the user, and they'll bounce away and they'll go to Flipkart and buy the same product, right? And that's something that we want to avoid. That's something we want to solve for, right? So it could be unclear value proposition, could be lack of trust, lack of principles of position, or unpleasant user experience, right? So persuading these users to take desired action on the website through consistent data-backed experimentation is called digital experience optimization, right? So this particular optimization program is made for three kind of people. Obviously, the primary will remain brands seeking to improve conversion rates, right? But the overall arcing factor remains, how would you do that? To do that, in order to increase our primary conversion metric, that could be revenue, that could be average revenue per user, that could be final purchases, number of orders being happening, right? That becomes your primary KPI. But how would you drive that? The driving that requires improving the digital experience of the customers, right? And all of this is encompassed by something which we call culture of experimentation, right? The idea of digital experience optimization will always remain to consistently experiment upon our properties to sort of determine what is working best for us, what are the ideas that we can utilize to sort of gain more engagement, gain more conversions, right? Sometimes it requires multiple areas of money being spent on multiple for multiple stakeholders, right? So to determine that and to sort of give a justification of that, how would we do that, right? So let's have a use case, right? Let's say if we are talking about a website, a e-commerce platform, who sort of wants to understand whether interactivity works for me or not, right? Or let's say putting a videos work for me or not, right? So let's say if imagine a product page of Mama Earth, there is no video as of now, no testimonial, and in one of our experimentation we come and say that that I think and we believe that putting a trust video on the product page will help us increasing add to cart and finally increase our revenue, right? But obviously the backhand and the other part of the coin is that it increases your page speed, right? And also page speed increase in the page speed also leads to people bouncing away, right? So there's now the second part of the coin, right? But let's say, how would we solve that? Would that give us certain uplift or not? So the best answer to this is always going to be remaining experiment, right? We would experiment in there. Let's say if we got to know that videos are giving us 20% uplift in revenue, then it makes sense to take a hit on our page speed and implement it for 100% of the audience. And now this gives us reason to invest more upon creation of videos, right? For all the other products, right? So this sort of gives you a sense of direction where the money should be invested upon, right? When it comes to marketing, when it comes to the storytelling of the page, right? The values that this particular program provides is obviously maximize your ad spends. The idea is to turn data into the action and test ideas to validate and personalize, right? Um, Definitely by doing radical changes, definitely by doing out of box experiments, definitely by personalizing experiences, right? Because a personalized experience is any day better than a generic experience, right? So it's very important to remember that personalization always boosts revenue when done right, right? It always boosts revenue, and in certain cases, we have seen almost 100% lift in revenue when it comes to personalizations, right? So just an example, what a 10% uplift looks like, right, in a month. So let's say a e-commerce platform which has a 4,80,000 traffic coming month on month, right, with 4,800 orders happening, with making one conversion rate being 1%, and average order value being 2,200, right? So let's say in this particular website, what would a 10% uplift look like? So let's say if we sort of increase the conversion rate from 1 to 1.10, um, the number of orders suddenly becomes from 4,800 to 5,280, right? Now, this is almost a lead of more than 500 orders, right? And if you look at this revenue, because average order value was 2,200, the revenue was 1,16,000, 1 crore 16,000, 1 crore 16 lakh 16,000, which added a 11 lakh, almost 10.5 lakh to the revenue, right? This is exactly what a 10% looks like, a 10% uplift looks like on a e-commerce company like that, right? So it definitely gives you a reason to constantly improve. That's why the reason why booking.com, amazon.com, Flipkart, all the leading brands are consistently experimenting upon us, right? Upon all of us which are landing on their website. All of us are anyhow someday, every day are part of a A/B test, right? Where these big brands are sort of trying to judge what makes us purchase, right? What makes us sort of convert into a user, right? Just one poll we wanted to sort of, what are the important metrics that as of now you think or are already optimizing on your website? Okay. All right. All right. So, okay. So conversion rate reached 80%. Now it has shrunk back to 68%. I think once it stabilizes, I can talk about what has gone first. All right. I think it's stabilized. Uh, so conversion rate is stopping it. Say almost 65% of us believe conversion rate is the metrics that they are already and are thinking that they should optimize for. The second being page load time, right? Definitely, all of these two, sort of adds up to the experience, adds up to uh, how quickly a user is able to see the product before they buy the product, right? It's important to see the product ASAP before that particular user takes a decision of considering of purchasing that, right? So definitely page load time is one of the important metrics as well. And third being bounce rate. Definitely. So it's in looking like this, looking in the data of the poll, it seems definitely we are sort of, the coming slides are definitely going to help whoever is present on the in the call, right? So we follow a structured approach for this one, right? How do we solve for this, right? Increasing traffic, we know, right? We already are sort of doing this. We are already sort of focusing upon it. But now, what about increasing average order value and increasing conversion rate? So there is a structured approach involved in this, right? So I would want to invite Tejas over here, where Tejas would explain how this particular structured approach works when we sort of do this, and how does it look on ground, right? Yeah,
Right.
Tejas.
Hey, hey, first of all, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. Very, very insightful data insights and actually some anecdotes shared by you, Anuj. Thank you so much for it. So yeah, let's get right into it. Now that Anuj has already set the context, he's made my job far, far easier, right? So the first thing we want to do is to derive a method to the madness. You can't go around optimizing everything because you need to define your problems. Once you do that, then you can look to optimize, you can look to prioritize, then experiment, and finally you get some data from your experiments which go back into your feedback loop where you try to optimize more over it again. So we recommend something called the doer framework, that is DOER for you to remember, which is discover, optimize, experiment, and review, right? So under discover, as the name suggests, what you look for is data. When I say data, it means you look for both qualitative and quantitative data on the properties where you're hosting your digital experience, whether it's a mobile, whether it's a website. That's why you go and find data, so you understand what users are trying to do. What are the friction points? What are your areas of improvement? Those are the things you need to look for. Once you look at those and you have some observations, you convert them to a hypothesis. A hypothesis is something that you can either validate or reject from the observations that you have already made, right? Now you have a list of hypotheses, but then you again prioritize, and then you create control and variations depending on your hypothesis. When we come to the experiment phase, we decide whom do we want to run the test for. We decide how many people, how much of your traffic do you want to allocate to the test, all of that in the experiment phase. And finally you get results, which variation is winning, whether the control is winning, variation is winning, which personalization can you do, what are the KPIs that are being affected because what are the KPIs that are being affected because of the experiments that you run, right? All of that comes in this approach. So this is an overall framework that you can apply for any of your or optimization campaigns. Now let's look at this from the lens of a real life example, right? So let's assume you're an e-commerce manager for a retail company and you have a lot of ads that are giving you so many homepage visits and giving you lesser number of clicks on buy now and even lesser clicks on purchases, right? Now let's take a look at this with an actual example from a brand called Tabisa, right? So Tabisa is one of Tatvic's clients where we help them optimize. So we are giving you real life scenarios of how this framework actually goes on in real life, right? How it helps. So the objectives for the website was to increase conversion rates, like the poll suggested. We wanted to increase the quality of the traffic as well and improve user experience, which comes back to the bounce rate and the page load time metrics, right? If you think about it, that's why I think Anuj also said that all our objectives are aligned, right? So, and we want to do this both for the website and mobile. And according to our framework, what's the first thing we want to do? We want to discover. And how are we going to discover? This is qualitative data. For qualitative data, you look at the website heat maps, click maps, the click area. What are the elements that people are clicking? What are they trying to do? Are they scrolling the entire page? Are they spending enough attention on important sections, or are they getting diverted by something else? And session recordings actually help you understand. You can basically write shotgun to your users, right? You can go through their entire journey and see where they are navigating, what they're clicking, what is capturing their attention from the entire map. So this gives you qualitative data. Now let's look at how this worked for Tabisa. So there are three basic things that we found out from Tabisa's website, right? The first thing that you see is over 70% of the people are not even reaching 75% of the page, right? That's a harsh thing, but even more harsh is they are not getting to the customer reviews part, which is the most socially validating part, right? So that's basically an observation that we have, which we will later convert to a hypothesis. Then on the second image, you can see that there are a tremendously high number of clicks on the logos, which indicates that users are actually going back to the homepage rather than clicking on the product or buy now or add to cart button. That is, instead of going deeper into the funnel, people are actually ejecting. And a small insight that we can get from here is the button on the left is getting a lot more clicks than the button on the right. So that will also give us insight into how we want to prioritize the buttons, right? Let's say here it's add to cart, but if we change that to buy now button, maybe people will directly purchase from this page itself, right? Those are the kind of hypotheses that we derive from this. And the final heuristics part is we see that the website is very wordy, right? It could be one of the reasons why the scroll depth is not as high as we would want it to be. Now, with just by qualitative data, we have found out friction points, which we can later convert into a hypothesis. Let's move to quantitative data right now. So this is basically from VWS dashboard for one of our clients' websites. This is not for Tabisa, but if you look at it, you can clearly see that there are very high number of visits to the product page, but a 58% drop off from the product page to buy now. And even after clicking on buy now, the completed purchases are still 14% lesser, which means we could essentially have about 3,000 people buying the product itself, but we have lost 500 customers at the last stage, right? That's the importance of analyzing both qualitative and quantitative data. So it brings to light the gaps that you have here, and that's how you decide to optimize further, right? And we also looked at data from Google Analytics. This is for Tabisa itself. Here we can clearly see from product page to add to cart to checkout, there is a clear decline in the graph. And based on the hypothesis that we have done earlier, now we know that this is the page that we can look to optimize and how we can improve it, which we'll discuss a little later in the webinar. Here we can see that the product page views have gone down by 12%. The purchases themselves have a decline of 20%. The bounce rate, just like the metric that we discussed, has gone up by 30%, which means it's not a good experience. And the product bounce rate and PD exits from PDP are very correlated. So that is also at 20-21%, right? You don't have to be a genius to figure this out. You know it, right? And this is this is a very interesting form analytics that we have. So this basically gives us what is the hesitation time when people go and fill forms, right? Can any of you comment what's weird about this form? While we have our answers, let me go through it. So if you see, the highest time taken for somebody to fill the form is the coupon code, right? But whereas people are very readily filling name, phone number, address. But coupon code, because people want to search for that last minute discount and finish the purchase and only then fill the form, right? That's basically expected pattern for all of us. Now, even if we order on Zomato, Swiggy, what we do is we first search for that coupon code, right? We check what is giving us the best discount and only then decide to go through with the order, right? So that could be another hypothesis where you guys could decide to have promo codes embedded right at the checkout page. That could be a hypothesis that you can test, right? So this is how we come to the analytics part. So let's move on to the analysis that we are making, right? So now that we have all the hypothesis, this is a VW exclusive feature, right? where we leverage GPT-4 AI to give you optimization ideas specific to metrics. In this case, we will be talking about increased clicks on the add to cart button, right? So once we do that, the AI will automatically analyze your page and it will give you specific optimization ideas. In this case, it says change the button color, which is fairly simple. And the other one is to add urgency, so that it suggests to add a countdown timer next to the add to cart button, depending on the sale. And all of this data is based on core scientific principles, right? These data points and optimization ideas is what we use to build a hypothesis list, like we saw earlier. Moving on. So once we have a list of hypotheses, we look to prioritize this, right? Here, let's say this is one of the testing ideas that we saw for Tabisa, where the text is too high, right? So that is one optimization area where we can choose to run a test optimizing this part of the experience. Like this, we will have a repository of ideas which we will prioritize. And how are we going to prioritize it? VW has something called a Kanban board, VW's project management and prioritization software called VW Plan, that's built right into the experimentation framework itself. So all the hypothesis observations that you do, you can clearly put it on a Kanban board, just like Asana or Jira or any task management software that you do, right? You have a backlog of testing ideas. You select a few ideas for testing, and these ideas automatically get updated based on your test results. So you don't have to do anything, and the entire organization has visibility into how this is performing. And best part, you also have prioritization scores built into this, right? You can choose how do you want to prioritize based on the framework, whether it's confidence, importance, ease. You can assign a score, you can assign labels, and then prioritize hypothesis and run experimentation that works according to your business priority, right?
Brilliant.
Right. So now we have done all the hard part. We know what we're going to do, but how are we going to execute it? So to create variations, you could use either a no-code editor, which is basically VWO's what you see is what you get editor, which is a drag and drop editor. To create variations on multiple pages, you can do several of things like dragging, reordering sections, adding new elements, changing headlines, changing buttons. Think of a visual change, and you can do it with the editor. You can also add widgets like exit pop-ups. You can add promotional banners. All of the typical marketing things you can think of is built right into the product. But in case you want to run slightly more sophisticated changes, that is not possible. And let's say you want to introduce certain specific triggers, then you use the code editor. You can add custom JavaScript and decide to create variations the way you want. And all of this is done inbuilt within VW itself. You don't even have to exit anywhere. And all of this happens at a very, very latency free process, the entire experimentation part, so that it doesn't increase your page load time, right? Although it's client side testing, it doesn't increase your page load time because the entire website gets served in a very asynchronous manner. So now that we have created variations, let's move on. So here, if you think about it, the data point that we saw was 78.8% of users were dropping off from the product page itself, right? So what we wanted to do was we wanted to, because there is a lot of data on the page, we wanted to condense it in a form that spoke about the brand story and not just treat it like a product, right? That's the difference. The story is the difference between a product and a brand, right? So we wanted to bring the brand part of it on the variation itself. So what we decided to track for this are add to carts, final purchases, and collection of page views. Three metrics that we looked to optimize for. And here you can see that this bag is inspired by a sparrow design. Now that's what we say on the variation, saying this is the sparrow, why we chose to do it, what this bag gives you, and why you should buy it. Like all of that in a very condensed form, right? Once we do that, and all of this, of course, is being done on VW. Once we have a control and variation, the next thing we decide to do is how much of the traffic we need to allocate, right, for this experiment. How much should go to the original, how much should go to the variation. That is control and variation. So you can do that on VW itself. There is no code required for it. You can choose a custom distribution where you can decide 60-40, 70-30, whatever is the traffic split you want, depending on what is the variation you think will work best. And we also have something called dynamic allocation, which will assign more traffic to the winning variation so that you get your results faster. right? That is typically used by companies when they have time sensitive campaigns like discounts, end of stock sale, something like that, where you want the results faster, right? Moving on. And all of this, yes, okay, we have e-commerce, personalization, all of optimization, personalized, all of that built in. But as marketeers, we need the tech stack to work well, right? So VW is already integrated with all of these points. It's very tightly integrated in the Google ecosystem. You can choose to run campaigns specifically for ads by choosing UTM source parameters for specific to your ads, so that you don't waste traffic to all the experiments that you're running. You have a dedicated ad, dedicated campaign page, so you can run targeted experiments. You can use tag manager for data layer to again use for targeting, and GA4 for both targeting and report analysis. And just as a snippet, VW actually is hosted on GCP. So that's one of the reasons why we think it's really fast, right? The tech is very strong,
Right.
right? So now that we've spoken about GA, you can run both A/B testing and personalization campaigns on GA4 audiences, just like how we saw for Tabisa, and we'll be seeing for another few e-commerce brands next. Here, the GA4 audience we chose to test was based on the add to cart abundance. So we create a GA4 audience, and once the audience is created and you choose your GA4 property, you can select the audience from here for website, and from cart abandoners, you can choose to experiment specifically those people, because they will ideally give you the highest impact, because they are the people who went till the last part of the funnel, but they ejected. So if you, in a way, figure out to retarget on them, there is a higher chance of you closing the revenue, right? So that's the idea behind this. So moving on. Once you do that, and we also saw the poll, right? What are the metrics that you want to track? Pretty common metrics, right? Add to cart, revenue. And in VW, you can also track revenue directly itself. You can create a currency based metric and say that an A/B test has shown so much of improvement in the final revenue itself, not just clicks, visits, or bounce, or a decrease in bounce rates, right? So you can track the entire funnel from your optimization to whether it's actually impacting your top line or not. So the whole thing is covered here. Yeah. So now for personalization, all of us are eventually moving to segment or other CDPs. The next thing you can do is you can choose to run optimization or personalization campaigns based on events from segment. Let's say somebody has already seen a pop-up modal on your landing page. Now you can use that as a metric that you can track on your A/B test to see how many times that specific modal was viewed, how many of those people converted in that modal, whether that is giving you results or not. Ideally, this is something, modals are something we use when people have 10%, 15% scroll depth, or when they are trying to exit the page, right? So all of that built into one optimization campaign with so much of data and so much of flexibility that you have will ideally give you so much of freedom to implement optimization campaigns the way you want, so that you can track from the beginning till the end whether it's actually impacting your revenue or not. Just like what Anuj said earlier, you can have umpty number of traffic, but if none of the traffic is converting, what's the point? It's simply giving you bragging rights, right? You can simply say my traffic grew from 10%, 20%, but is it really impacting you in any way? That's where conversion rate becomes more important, right? So moving on. And this is basically the reporting dashboard of VW. All of this is based on Bayesian statistics, and this is a sequentially valid result. So it's always true whenever you look at it. For all the stats nerds, I think they will get what I'm trying to say here. You can control the power of the statistical accuracy depending on the experiments that you're running, right? And you will get such reports for all the metrics on your left. Here you can see bounce rate metric, which has an inverted arrow. That means the metric is desirable if it falls, just like page load time, right? You want page load time to be lower. So VW will give you results depending on those inverse metrics, right? It will declare winners if those metrics go lower, right? And of course, you can segment your reports based on events, based on user data, based on custom dimensions like age. Think of it, and you can create report filters for it so that you have cohort specific analysis.
This is something
These
that Tejas I use very extensively, where if I have to check as to how the different channels are performing for different variations, it becomes really smooth, right? That how my Google ads are performing, how my Facebook ads are performing, the users from the Facebook ads are performing in the different variations. So definitely, this is really Really amazing.
So, and most of our customers also love using this, right? Because it gives them specific insight into areas that they can maximize on and areas that are not working, rather than
Correct.
having a surface level analysis, right? And and VW declares a winner once your probability reaches 95% threshold. So you know your results are always statistically valid. Of course, you can change the threshold value depending on the experiments that you're running, but these are the default values that I'm talking about, right? So this is basically the structure of how VWO works. And finally, coming back to Tabisa, right? We gave the story, we hypothesized, we ran the test, and finally proof of the pudding eating, right? Now we see that there is an actual 37% uplift, and we have seen a 17% uplift on with the variation itself. That's going to give a 17% uplift on the revenue, not just conversions. And this result was achieved with 95% statistical confidence that I just spoke about. So you know that the value that you're getting in the test will actually be the value when you go and implement it in the production environment. That's more important, right?
Definitely. And once you sort of, once we have received this, let's 37% uplift in add to cart rate for Thabisa, right? And because top of the funnel was increased, there was 17% uplift in the revenue as well, right? So if we extrapolate this particular data and put it on the graph, and let's see how this 17% uplift month on month would look like when the year ends, right? So this is the red graph that would have been without our intervention and without our without any optimization done, and the green is the line with the optimization, right? So now this graph and the difference between this particular graph is the complete reason why people are completely dedicating a complete team for digital experience optimization, right? Why people are creating a new in-house team for this, right? Just to create this gap, right? Just to reach the upper part of the graph of the gap, right? This is the exact reason why people are, because the 37% uplift in add to cart and 17% uplift in revenue, looking for a 1 month seems fine, but when it sort of starts having a compounding effect to it, then you start suddenly realizing the kind of the wealth or the revenue that it has been generating, right? So that's the crux, and that's one of the features of experimentation, that compounding effect happens, right?
Right. That's the best part, right? It's not like you need to do anything radical. It's the traffic that you've worked so hard to build. Might as well maximize it.
Correct, correct. So this experiment saw a decline in cost per purchase for Thabisa, and post this intervention done, Thabisa increased their ad spends by 15%, right? So not only did they optimize their current spends, current ad spends, they have also increased their ad spends by 15%, right? Now coming to the approach and coming to the part where how Tejas created impact for different brands. Tejas.
So Hush is basically a retail blanket brand, and they ran optimization campaigns that helped them increase their revenue by 23%, right? So the goal to run the optimization campaign was increase conversion rates and thereby revenue. The hypothesis was that we need a clean, simpler UI that would clearly give users call to action and what they have to do. Now, this hypothesis was based on a different observation where people were going and clicking on the navigation button at the top, so they were exiting, just like how we saw in Tabisa as well. And the page had so much data that did not add much value, right? So finally we ran an A/B test and we were able to give a 23% uplift. Let's look at how the test looked like, right? So this is the control part of it. If you see, we removed the top right navigation bar. That's been removed. The central part has been removed, and the long footer that you see in black, all of that was removed to create a variation. The variation had a clear call to action: price, quantity, what you're shopping, and a drop down bar to decide the quantity of items you were buying, right? So that's the control, and this is the variation. And it's no surprises, the variation won, and we were able to see a very good uptick in conversions, right? But the uptick in conversions, can you take a wild guess as to how much is the estimated improvement in revenue that this company would have had, right? It's in the hundred thousands of dollars. So they so we saw they were able to increase checkouts by 15.48%, which led to a 23% rise in revenue. And that data, when extrapolated, approximately accounts to an increase of $337,000 in their revenue value. So that's the impact of this one experiment, or let's say one or two experiments that look to optimize this page, right? So that's the impact of it. Of course, that's just one of the tests that we discussed. We'll be sharing the deck post the webinar, so you can go and read the entire case study where we'll have detailed observations, tests, controls, variations, what they look to do, and finally how they achieved it, right? Moving on, let's look at one other example where Floss is again a company that was looking to boost their CRO journey itself, right? So they wanted to bring more visits to the product pages from their homepage. And how they wanted to do it by adding a CTA to the images of the products that were being displayed on the homepage.
Mhm.
So, and this experiment also uh, gave us a very good uplift in that. And there is a small insight that we'll discuss later, right? So they got 47% more orders and 86% more revenue just by doing it. Let's look at their control and variation. So what's on the left is the control where they had only the image, and on the right, that's the winning variation. They had a view product details, clear CTA that told them to go into the product and see what this was about, right? Actually, we tested multiple variations for this. There was one with image, one with CTA, one with image price and CTA, one with image descriptions and CTA. And among that, this turned out to be the best, right? And this, the company called Floss, they liked it so much that this is just one of the campaigns that they ran. They ran a total of 30 campaigns in a period of 17 months, right? Now they've very strongly built experimentation into their culture itself. That's the impact of optimization that they've had right now because of the success story.
Brilliant, brilliant. So Tejas, the way the screenshots and the control and the variation looks, it seems, the control just looks like just random images on the website, right? But looking at the variation, it definitely feels that there is something behind those images as well. There is a page, a complete product page, which is behind that, right? So suddenly, what didn't had any sort of route inside, suddenly now there is a route, right, which immediately comes out once this particular winner variation stands, right, with the clear CTA. So definitely, I think looking like this, definitely this looks a perfectly clickable card.
Yeah. And the data validated that as well, right? So moving on, I think Anuj can take you guys through a few more of industry specific examples, right?
Okay. Thanks, Tejas. I'll quickly talk about, at Tatvic, we have been uh, improving the experience of different brands, more than 40 plus brands, which are belonging to different industries, right from D2C clients, e-commerce, to automotive clients, to BFSI clients, to publishers, right? All of them have different problem areas. All of them have different problem solutions to their problems, right? Which we solve catering, looking at their quantitative and qualitative data. That exactly what Tejas just talked about when talking about discover phase, right? So multiple use cases that I'll be going through as of now to make you understand how this works in a real environment and what kind of uplift it gives, right? So I'll just quickly start with the e-commerce one. One of our clients we are working with is Kalki Fashion. So Kalki Fashion, on the left side is the current original product page of Kalki Fashion. This particular Salwar Kameez was one of the top hitting charts when it comes to purchases, right? In Kalki. But the problem that they were facing was, as soon as you click either buy now or add to cart, you are scrolled down to a section called select size, where you need to select size and select the height, in order to go ahead in the funnel, right, and purchase the product. The problem as of now, what was happening, as soon as we saw a session recording of a user clicking on add to cart and buy now, what we identified was the user was actually going, the page was scrolling down to the size and height section, and it was so far below that user got confused and they bounced away, right? And we found a pattern in it, right? When we analyzed 10 of the recordings, we got to know that on out of 10, 7 of the recordings was having the same pattern and same behavior, right? So what hypothesis we came up with is basically having a drawer. As soon as a user click add to cart or buy now, there is a drawer which beautifully comes up on from bottom, and the user is nudged to select size and select height, right? As soon as we did this experiment where 50% of the users were looking at original and 50% of the users were looking at recommendations, there was 11% uplift in purchases, the final purchases. And because there was 11% uplift in purchases, there was around 28% uplift in the website revenue, right? So immediately, small section fix, the brand saw almost a 30% uplift in the revenue, right? Going ahead, as we just talked about, it's not just increasing traffic and increasing conversion rate. It is also about increasing average order value, right? So in this, for Thabisa is trying to figure out how we can increase average order value, right? So we've got to their cart. They have this luxury product line of products. So what happened was, we created a complete cohortness where, if let's say a product X has been added to the cart, the product Y and product Z, which are closest to the product X, are displayed as frequently bought together. And that's how we sort of, we wanted to run this test in order to implement a complete product recommendation engine, right? We really need to identify whether these things are working for us or not, to invest upon a complete product recommendation engine to be installed to the website, right? So we did this experiment. We added a section for frequently bought together. Very carefully curated products were added there. Also, we added, changed this final CTA, which earlier used to be update cart, right? Now update cart is a problem copy, right? We're not sure as to what does update cart means. So we changed it to proceed to checkout, and we added another CTA called continue shopping, right? Because these are the two action items which are expected from this particular customer, right? And proceed to checkout being the primary one. Once we ran this experiment, where 50% of the users were looking at original and 50% were looking at the recommendation, we had an 18% uplift in average order value, right? In the purchases that is happening, right? So again, boosting the revenue, but this time boosting the average order value itself, right? Going ahead, this is one of our clients who is working for Gem Pandit. Now, Gem Pandit, the average order value of Gem Pandit is 22,000, right? 22 to 25,000, right? As soon as even it's increased by 10% or 20%, the kind of lift and the kind of revenue that this particular company sees is tremendous, right? So earlier they had this particular cart page that was sort of not functioning well, not sort of solving their problem. Checkout and view cart were there as a CTA, but the order was wrong, right? So what we did was we changed the order. We sort of created a full screen checkout page over here, and as soon as we did this experiment, there was 23% uplift in product purchases. Now, 23% uplift in product purchases when it comes to industry of gems, where average order value is 25,000. We're talking about a revenue which is going more than 20 to 30 L, right? Within 15 days. So that's brilliant when it comes to a high ticket size product, right? One of our clients that we are working is Ferns and Petals, right? Ferns and Petals being very famous gifting website. So now, in the original, as you can see, this was the original that they had. Now the problem area that we found out was they are giving two action items to their users, right? Which is a problem which we have identified in our earlier experiments as well, that giving one action item to the user definitely works better than two action items, right? So we really wanted to run this experiment just to give one action item, which is add to cart, rather and removing buy now, and just to get add total, right? So we did this. As soon as you click add to cart, there is a pop-up which is added called gift has been added to your cart, proceed to checkout, right? As soon as we did this experiment, the complete product purchase journey saw an uplift in 13%, right? And the kind of traffic Ferns and Petals holds is really tremendous, right? As soon as you increase 13% uplift in product purchases, we're talking about huge number of traffic here, right? So definitely, again, a huge jump in revenue. And because the huge jump in revenue, FNP also increased the spends, the Google ad spends that they were doing to increase more traffic, right? So definitely, this particular thing works. For one of our automotive client, Royal Enfield is consistently running ads to bring users to either test ride form page or to the product page, right? So as you can see over here, They earlier they when they approached us, they were facing this particular problem of users not going to the test ride page, right? And then finally, once they went to the test ride page, they were not converting. So first, the problem that we solved for Royal Enfield was we started sending users to the test ride page by basically having different kind of interventions done to make them reach on the test ride page. And once we increase the traffic on the test ride page, the idea was to radically change the test ride page itself, right? So as you can see in the current form of Royal Enfield, there are almost 10 form fields, right? Out of those 10, 3 are when are you planning to purchase, what is the date, and what is the time, right? So when are you planning to purchase is a form field which is mandatory, and it's something you shouldn't be asking to a person who is coming for test ride, right? So immediately sort of removing that from the form field becomes important. What we also figured out, selecting a date and selecting a time form field was also contributing to heavy bounce rate, right? The heavy people bouncing away from the page, right? Now the problem is we are already asking the user for the mobile number, right? Anyway, the brand is going to call them, right? Asking for a date and time is just adding on to the fatigue of a user, right? So what we did was we basically saw the page. We realized one of it was also select a bike model, right? But we also realized that this is a motorcycle company. This user is here for motorcycles, right? So what we did was we splitted the form into two parts, right? We first asked user to select the model, right? Select the bike that they want to sort of take a test ride of, right? And displaying the motorcycles outrightly bright in front of them, right? So now what this does is it invokes that feeling of the users coming and sort of coming for a motorcycle, right? So now, as soon as the user selects that, there is a second part of the form where we give them optimized 6 form fields, right? Very optimized, removed all the other form fields called when are you planning to purchase, selecting date and time, right? And as soon as we did this experiment, what we saw as a result was there was an uplift in 51% in terms of test ride bookings being happening, right? So now this particular experiment, when we saw there is a tremendous level of uplifts happening, wow, the Royal Enfield implemented it for 100% of the audience and is still now running ads for this. And also scale this form to England, scale this form to complete Europe, Australia, and Thailand, wherever they are sort of having their international presence, right? So it's all over now, where this has become the main test ride form, right? Going ahead, TVS Motor is also one of our clients where we are helping them driving the digital experience and personalization strategy. So they came up with this bike, a motorcycle called Ronin, right? So Ronin was a really brilliant bike. But the problem this particular page had, they're constantly running a campaign on this particular page. But the problem that they were having is, right, the test ride form was on the bottom of the page, right? And the story itself, the storytelling of the page was not right. So what we did was the first intervention was to have the bike, a beautiful image of a person riding that bike in front of us. So that's what exactly we did, right? And give a copy called live and ride, right? So that's something sort of to determine and sort of develop a feeling of a motorcycle and the riding experience of it, right? And gave a complete storytelling to the bottom of the form where we carefully curated the content below the fold and gave that particular storytelling, right? And when we ran this experiment, there was a 30% uplift in the test ride bookings that were happening, right? Going ahead, I would want to talk about again Royal Enfield. When Royal Enfield was coming out with the new motorcycle called Hunter 350, right? They were constantly running millions and millions dollar of money was being poured to make users come onto the register page, right? Register page of the motorcycle. So the idea was to give visibility, right? So as soon as a user was coming to the website, they were not able to sort of find the page, and not organic people were also trying to understand that there is a new launch happening. So what we did was we did this particular activation for all of these campaign users that are coming and the organic users are coming, to give them a highlight of there is a bike which is being going to launch, right? And we also had a countdown attached to it, right? 10 days, 8 hours, and 6 minutes to go. before all intense flavors of pure motorcycling packed into a fun and stylish new machine will be coming, right? And we told users to notify us, right? And that became one of the avenue to collect leads as well. And once we did this, there was an 88% uplift in the lead form submission. And together with Royal Enfield, we created a world record of most live views for any bike launch, right? So that has been tremendous. Uh, Going ahead for BFSI, as you can see, we are also working for HDFC Life. HDFC Life, again, as you can see on the left side, is the original. The problem area that they have is a lead problem. What we did was, it's very important to identify the customer. What does our customer stands for? What is the problem of our customer, right? Creating a customer persona before starting out any optimization is very critical, right? So here, for example, why a user will come and go to HDFC Life life insurance plan, right? So to basically safeguard the family's future, right? And instead, sort of, if you look at the original, it says a get a free quote, right? HDFC Life and a direct form, right? What intervention we immediately wanted to do is we wanted to start the form by saying saving plan that safeguards your family's future, right? Directly talking about emotions, directly talking about what value this particular thing will give this to the user, right? Also, what we did was we added emotional image of a family, right? It sort of evokes that particular emotion, and also added certain value propositions like guaranteed uplifts and 99% payout, right? So as soon as we did, and also what we did was we sort of got the form up above the fold, right? Once we did this experiment, there was 169% uplift in the lead form submission. And again, HDFC poured in more money to sort of get users onto this particular page, right? Because more of them started converting. So this sort of gets us to, understanding how things happen. One example I really wanted to talk about with everyone, very simple. This is for one of our stockbroking client that we have called Angel One. One experiment we did for them was, their form had a CTA called open an account, right? So what we did was we did a very simple experiment. We wanted to create a copy which is sort of, sort of gives and provides value to the user, right? So as soon with the small intervention, open an account, we changed it to start investing, right? Very simple experiment, right? No changes, no design, no UX improvement, very simple copy experiment, but a 17% uplift in number of leads, right? So a carefully strategized experiments can uncover hidden potential of our websites or app, right? In order to improve the experience and in order to maximize all the users that have been landing, right? I just wanted to quickly talk about, what happens when we are consistently doing these activities on the website, right? So every dot that you see is for our client, where we were running almost 3 to 4 experiments for them, right? And looking at Feb 2021 to January 2022 data, you can see the clear inclined graph that how the conversion rate, starting from 10.98 reached 19.78, where we saw an 80% improvement in the overall conversion rate of the client, right? Um, so that has been definitely amazing and gives you an insight as to why does brand needs to also focus upon the other two metrics apart from increasing traffic, right? Going ahead, just one, who are we? As a Tatvic, right? What do we do? So we are a MarTech agency, Tatvic. We sort of help our brands collect data. We help them analyze the data. We help them visualize the data through beautiful looking dashboards. And finally, we activate that data in form of digital experience optimization or CRO program, right? So we have almost done more than 1200 plus experiments with 88% success rate for different brands like TVS, FNP, Royal Enfield, Titan Eye Plus, Plex Life, Dot and Key, Johnson and Johnson's, and likes, right? Uh, Going ahead, with over a decade of experience, VW is our strategic partner for helping us, give this visual digital experience to the customers of our brand. Tejas, if you want to sort of talk about the VW.
Yeah, VW is an end-to-end conversion rate optimization platform, both for client side, server side solutions as well. It covers all the areas that we discussed today, from heat maps, A/B testing, split variate, multivariate testing, server-side optimization, feature management, personalization, all of it. And it was launched in 2009. We've served over 20,000 customers, and that's growing daily. And we are number one according to G2's reports as well, right? We have presence in over 150 countries, making us a truly global brand. And these are some of the customers from different parts of the world that currently use VWO for their optimization campaigns themselves, right? And you don't have to take my word for it. Just look at what customers say about us. You can read about us on G2 or any other software review platforms. And we also offer a free trial, so you can reach out to Anuj and the Tatvic team as well. And you can also sign up for VWO just to check the platform out.
Definitely. Thanks a lot, Tejas. Everyone on the call, any questions, any thoughts, any feedback that you have, any kind of consulting approach that you sort of want to sort of talk about, anything, please, you're all welcome, all on board. Please help us fill the Q&A chat, and we'll help you answer your questions. Okay. I think we have a question. Funnel drop data was showed from VW. We can set up Fran. Okay.
So I think Abhishek had a question about what is the data source for funnel drop, right? The ones
Yes.
that we showed. So basically, Abhishek, that's data from VWO itself. So you, according to the website that you're looking to optimize, you can set up funnels and see what is the actual drop off that's happening from page to page, right? And the Tabisa's data that we showed was from Google Analytics. So those are the two products that we use to get that data.
Correct. Also, how there was one question called, how do you balance the need for data-driven decision making with qualitative insights from user feedback? So the balance is, there is no balance. The idea is to gain as much insights and as much data and as much understanding of our customers possible, in order to sit on a chart paper and devise a strategy, right? um, there is no such balance. We would want to look at each and everything. We would want to look at website quantitative data, which is your analytics tool. We would want to look at session recording. We would want to do surveys as well, right? Because nothing can give you a better answer than the customers themselves, right? Running a survey just sort of starts giving you certain gaps in certain areas that you would never ever have thought of, right? So definitely sort of, there is no balance. It's as much as we can sort of gather in before we sort of start optimizing, right? um, Beautiful. There's a second question which says, how do you approach personalization and digital experience optimization without sacrificing user privacy? Right. Very important question. It depends on ethicality as well. It's sort of a problem. But how does this work, right? The first core principle of any personalization strategy starts with creating a customer persona, right? Customer persona who of how does our best customer look like, right? Now, in order to do that, there are two ways to do it, right? Number one, you do it yourself, right? To determine what should be a ideal customer of yours, right? And the second thing is you need to collect data, right? Needing to collect data to identify the people who have purchased, and now dissecting them and identifying their persona, right? Who are these people who have purchased? What were they doing before they purchased? What were they looking at, right? So for example, one of our clients, they came to us, they're like, they were running ads, multiple people were coming and landing on the product pages, right? But the problem was they were serving a tool, but the problem was they were not able to display their case studies in a rightful manner, right? So what we did was we personalized an experience for them, where we told them to self segment themselves. As soon as they self segmented their industry, the kind of case studies and the kind of copywriting and the kind of the product page and the storytelling of the product page changed to the industry specific, right? So for example, a person who's coming from banking industry saw everything related to banking on that particular tool page, right? So that's how it sort of works. Definitely user, there is in the ethic question, right? But again, something that helps me out or helps our user out in sort of taking a decision. For example, Uber. Let's say Uber, if you are downloading that app and sort of, if you book a cab every day 7 p.m. from your work to your home, it makes sense for Uber to personalize that journey and give you a suggestion to book a cab every 7 p.m. every day, right? Every working day, so that you can sort of, in one click go ahead and sort of, click and sort of book your cab, right? So now there are two things. Have they taken your data and sort of, breached the privacy, or have they facilitated us, right? With sort of much more convenience, right? So definitely is the way we look at. There has to be obviously a balance. The convenience, it has to be a more of a win situation for a user than a win-win situation. Then the personalization strategy definitely works, right? Okay. Going ahead, there is one more question. Thanks for the insightful sessions. Oh, thank you, Renu. I would want to understand about the success rate of the experiments. So far, you have talked about all the successful experiments, but out of, say, 100 experiments carried out, how many were successful ones, and how many hypotheses turned valid out of, say, 100%, 100 hypotheses tested? If you could give a ballpark figure. So yes, Renu, definitely we have put that in the slides as well. We have almost 88% success rate. The problem is, we are a consultancy agency, right? We are not an in-house CRO agency, or we are not a in-house experimentation people, right? When the experimentation or a CRO team is in-house, we would more call it as a failure experimentation team and everything, because all the failure of the experiments also gives you a learning, right? But when it comes to a consultant like us, it completely, every experiment we have to deliver value, right? So for us, each and every experiment becomes really critical that it should perform. It should give out what it's supposed to, and sort of that's why the lot of work is also put into it, right? A lot of deep diving into the data, a lot of hours being spent looking at session recording, looking at the behavior, looking at the tool, looking at all the numbers, right? And definitely looking at the whole experience, right? So yes, 88%, 88 hypotheses out of 100 are successful, if to answer your question. Uh, but definitely not saying that it should be based upon success rate, right? Any hypothesis being failed, also you are learning, right? It is just one more reason how a bulb cannot be made, right? That's exactly how we take when it comes to experimentation. Oh, and no worries, you have joined late. We will definitely share out the deck, right? Do you have any case study related to B2B client? Yes, definitely we do. We would send that out as well while sending this particular deck out to every one of you. Thank you for the insightful presentation for high traffic users who are skeptical about starting an experimentation program. How do we approach them with the pitch? If they're stringent with their budget, how to decide the smallest subset for the pilot's test, right? Um, uh, how do we approach them with the pitch? Number one, you have to make them understand there are only three ways to boost revenue, right? Increase traffic, increase average order value, increase traffic. There is no other magic wand at place, right? These are the only three ways you can increase your traffic, right? So if the brand is doing the first part and not the other two parts, here is your leeway, here is your sort of a gap area to sort of come and pitch out, let's say, one POC experiment to them, right? That's how you can sort of take that ahead. That's for you, Pratik. And where can I find episode one? It will be on YouTube. If not, we can attach that in the email itself while sending this out, right? It was upon how behavior analytics helps you increase traffic and conversion rate on the website, right, Faisal? Um, yes, I think this was it. Um, Thank you so much, everyone, all of you, to join this particular call. Thanks, Tejas, for your time and the way you explained the whole approach. Really clear. Any thoughts that you have, Tejas, that you want to add?
Yeah. Thank you, first of all, for doing this together. Thank you for inviting me. It was wonderful interacting with the entire team. Got to learn so much. And looking at the questions, also looks like we had a terrific audience asking very insightful questions on actionable feedback, right? It was a great session. Looking forward to doing more such sessions that help clients out, right? Thank you, and very insightful conversation with you as well, Anuj. Both
Same
during
here.
the prep and before.
Same here, Tejas.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We'll share out the deck, everyone. Thank you for joining. Hope to see you in episode 3. Um, yeah, and have a nice day, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great remainder of the day.
All right, guys. Thank you. Bye bye.